What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL. This time tonight, we're going to be talking about some of our draft picks. I put a poll out on Twitter asking who y'all wanted to see first. Would have been Drake London, Arnold Ebiketie, or whoever, Desmond Ridder. And y'all chose Arnold Ebiketie. Now, I'd done, previously, kind of like broke down Ebiketie as far as just the player. So I'm not going to go too deep into that, so to speak. I will a little bit, but y'all can find that breakdown obviously on poundforpoundatl.com or P4P atl.com. But now that he's on the team, how does he fit? How can we use him? How are we going to use him? How should we use him? Those are the, now you're kind of look at it in a different light as to how he fits in this team, especially in light of re-signing Grady Jarrett, or extending Grady Jarrett rather. Now you kind of really look at how does the defensive line work, and how are we going to deploy Arnold Ebiketie. I'm also figured I'd just go ahead and make it a package deal. I'm going to talk about DeAngelo Malone as well, and just kind of make it a pass rush video as far as the draft concerns. So, as always, if you haven't liked or subscribed, please do that. That helps us show support and gets that YouTube algorithm churning in our direction, which is obviously we like. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into it. I don't know how familiar y'all are with the RAS scores. It's a very handy tool to use or to look at, and there's been a clear trend. That number up there at the very top, that average number, almost every one of them that we drafted was in that green number and closer to 9 than anything else. Anyway, so Arnold Ebiketie stands 6'2", 250 pounds, did benched at the rep 21 times. He had a 38 vertical and a 10-foot broad jump, 34-inch arms, which is important, as we found out much more with talking about Aiden Hutchinson. There's his 40-yard dash was 4.66, which is really good for his size. Had a 2.6 20-yard split and a 1.6 10-yard split. So very athletic, and you're going to notice that trend with both of these edge rushers, in both Malone and Ebiketie. Very athletic rusher, and a very balanced rusher, in my opinion. Does real well in the run, does real well in the, obviously, getting sacks or pressures, a lot of pressures. So anyway, I got to do this a little bit differently because there's a company out there called Catapult that is just hitting people with copyright claims for footage. So I'm going to try to do this a little bit differently. I hope y'all enjoy it. So, first of all, let's start off with this picture here. Ebiketie lines up wide quite a bit there at Penn State. So, a very rare, I would expect to see him do a lot of the same things here for us. Primarily a two-point stance rusher, but will put his hand in the dirt, as you can see here on this other play. He's got his hand in the dirt on that one. Anyway, let's go back to our original play here. So, initially, he starts on his rush going upfield on the outside. One of his main moves is he starts outside and then he comes back inside or takes that inside track. This time, he took that inside track and he paired it with a swipe, or with some people call that a jab. So I've seen him pair it with a jab, with a swim move, but he does seem to favor that inside track quite a bit, as you can see there. And once he gains that inside track, he just splits both the lunging center, it looks like, and the left tackle. Or that could be the guard. It's hard to see in a still image if it was the guard or the center. But he splits both of those guys, and once he splits them, you see him launch. Now, granted, the ball is already out of the quarterback's hands, but he definitely affected the play That was an errant throw by the quarterback there. So that is good to see that he does that quite a bit. Okay, his inside track is probably his favorite move. He starts outside, comes back inside, and has a lot of success with that. And it'll be interesting to see if they use him, if we start seeing that stunt and twist game come on. Now, Ebiketie compares size-wise and testing-wise favorably to Harold Landry, which Dean Pease coached up there in Tennessee. So I could definitely see them trying to make Ebiketie our version of Harold Landry, which I would be stoked to see. Now, you're like, JR, well, Harold Landry was a first-round pick. Going into this draft, there was a chance that Ebiketie could have went in the first round. I think had there not been a run on wide receivers, he probably would have went in the first round. Hence, the Atlanta Falcons felt very comfortable giving up a fourth-round pick to move up some spots to get Ebiketie. So this was a guy that they are very high on, and I think they feel like he's going to bring a lot of juice to the pass rush game. Now let's go back to that hand in the dirt, because on this particular play, this was a run stop play. He starts off getting his hands in the dirt, which is good to see that you can see that positional versatility. He isn't just a stand-up rusher. He can rush from the 2-point stance. He can rush from the 5-tech spot, which I have planned on pulling that clip. But like I said, the folks over at Catapult are on a tear, apparently. So, anyway, he gets low, and there you can see he gets up under the pad of the offensive lineman there. And by getting up under the pad, he's able to ride the offensive lineman down the line basically with one arm. And this is where that bench press comes in, because he's got to bench press that offensive lineman off of him. But shortly after that, he disengages and gets a tackle for loss there. Something that I was glad to see, him being active in the run game and not just being a one-dimensional player. You saw him quite a bit, flowing up and down the offensive line, making stops. And even though I think I spoke with Damsky about it just to confirm, he feels like Landry is better at dropping into coverage, but I saw Ebiketie do it enough that I don't think he'll be a liability dropping into coverage. So with Ebiketie and Lorenzo Carter playing your edges, I'd be curious to see if we see a lot more 4-3-esque looks. I don't think so. I think it's going to stick to a mainly 3-4, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see Ebiketie and Grady Jarrett lined up on the same side doing some twists and stunts. That's how I think he may get featured early on in the season, but I would imagine by mid-season or so he'll probably be taking a lot more reps, depending on his conditioning, because we saw Ebiketie get kind of winded towards the middle of the season, so it depends on how all that stuff shakes out. But that's Ebiketie. Very straightforward. I'm excited to have him here. He's going to be asked to get after the quarterback, and I think he's going to be able to do that well for us. Like I said, I really, in my mind, he compares favorably to Harold Landry for us. Maybe a little bit of a downgrade, so to speak, but we'll see how that goes. But it wouldn't surprise me one bit if he had 5 to 6 sacks his rookie season. So that's Ebiketie. So let's move on to DeAngelo Malone. I really hope he keeps the number 10. One reason why I was kind of waiting to see, but anyway, because I'd like to call him D10. Anyway, Malone is 6'3", 243, bench press 23 times, vertical of 35.5, and a 9-foot broad jump. Very athletic, another 4'6" guy, quick on his feet, 1.6 10-yard split. 33.1 inch arms, which is interesting because his arms look longer than Ebiketie's, but I think it's because Ebiketie is, 6'2", so he's a little more, I don't know. Malone's arms look longer. It may be because he's got just a thinner frame. I'm not sure. But Malone was a guy coming out of, and when we picked him, I was excited about him because he really jumped off the practices at the Senior Bowl. He looked back on tape, and he's got some real good bend to him, and he plays with real good power. He does good of converting speed to power, and I don't know if it's actually a thing, but power to speed. Like once he clears it, he's got that gear to get to the quarterback. So the first play with DeAngelo Malone, you see like he hits that outside and he almost does what I've heard some people say, or seen some people say, like a flying cross chop. But he like jumps outside and hits the guy with that up and under, that rip move to get disengaged, which is good to see that he's got some pass rush moves. That's one of the things these guys coming out of college sometimes don't really have much of a plan. Malone seems to have a plan now. In this particular game, they're like punching above their weight going against Louisville. Him being Western Kentucky, going up against Louisville, that's a little bit higher of a weight class, I guess you could say. So here you can see on another play his bend. And you say, well, JR, how do you see his bend? Because he's dipping his shoulder around that offensive tackle. He's already dipped and he's starting to come around the other side. And once he comes around the other side, you see that distance between that tackle and him? Once he clears that, like he sticks his foot in the ground and he goes. This resulted in a sack. They almost got the fumble recovery, but it was a sack fumble. Unfortunately not for a safety, but it was real close. DeAngelo Malone, I think, is going to be your designated pass rusher, maybe, coming in on like strictly passing downs, or if he gets the hang of it real well, I could really see us doing a lot more stunting and twisting with Grady Jarrett. Grady's really good at doing that kind of stuff, and these guys, Ebiketie and DeAngelo Malone, have got the speed and they have got the bend to them. So he does real well, like setting guys up as far as like faking to the outside and coming back in, which is something Ebiketie does well as well. So their skill sets combined are going to be really interesting, along with Lorenzo Carter in the like whirlwind of this whole draft. I haven't really gotten to sit down and watch a ton of Lorenzo Carter, but I know he come on late for the Giants with 5 sacks in the last 5 or 6 games. So you really hope that he's going to be able to ride that wave here in Atlanta, back in the city where he went to, or state where he went to the college at, back in the red and black. So with him, with those 3 guys paired with Adio Gandeji, I really think that was the tipping point of being able to re-sign Grady Jarrett. I could be completely wrong on that, but I can only remember that, but that clip where Grady's asking those guys, can y'all block anybody else, really sticks out in my head. And, I think that was a holdup. Like, what are you guys going to do? Like, am I going to be the only piece? Because if I'm going to be the only piece, peace out, But he isn't. You spent significant draft capital on Ebiketie and Malone. And I believe both of those guys are going to bring some much-needed pass rush. They won well in college, and it wasn't fluky. Neither one of like Malone especially didn't have much help out there in Western Kentucky. Like, he was the guy. Now, Ebiketie has had some help, but he's shown that he's progressed and gotten better each year in college. He has the measurables, and I believe he has the desire and the drive. So we're going to see it, obviously, come training camp. But I expect to see a lot more twists and stunts this year than maybe we saw last year, because I really feel like that's something that these two pass rushers can bring to the table. That's what I got for y'all today. I appreciate y'all checking it out. I think Toby's got going to be doing a video on Drake London soon, so keep your eyes peeled there. And then we're just going to keep going depending on how these are received, obviously. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128. That's GRIMM1128. You can follow Toby D on TobyD1991. You can always check us out at Pound for Pound ATL, as P for P, ATL.com. Like, subscribe, share, Patreon if you want it. Merch is there if you want it. Not, no big deal. But as always, Falcons fans, rise up.